guess, welcome back. All three of you were in the same group. So I had wanted to, I thought we could start today by debugging the pull requests and making sure you can like get your assignments submitted. Let's see. So, well, maybe we'll just, oh, your internet. Okay, no problem. You can go off video. Let's see. What's the easiest way for me to do this? Maybe I'll share my screen and show how I do pull requests, and then we can, try going from there.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So let's see. Okay. So the first thing to do is to navigate to your fork of the storytelling with data repository. So if you haven't already forked it, then the way you do that is you click the fork button in the upper right corner. And then that will create your copy of this repository. And then you want to make sure your fork is up to date with the current version. Yours will be if you've just forked it. So fetch and merge does that. And then the place where you're going to add your data stories or your assignment 4 story is under data stories and then the COVID-19 folder. And then so the two things I would add would be like your notebook for doing your analyses, and you could have multiple notebooks, and then a README file saying like, providing the details of the file. So there's some instructions for how to set that up in the assignment instructions. You can either like upload a file with this dialog here. So if you've already written out a file, you can like drag and drop something from your computer. Or you can also like create a new README file right from here and just say like, so it could be like COVID crisis in India .markdown. And then you can like, and then like, et cetera. So you can fill out kind of whatever your information is. And then you want to press commit new file, and that will add a file to your your fork in this folder. If you want to preview the README file to make sure it's like formatted correctly, you can use this preview tab. So to make sure you've typed in your markdown commands correctly and like all that. I'm going to cancel here, just so it doesn't add like a kind of random file. And then if you have a small data set, you can upload your folder right here, or if it's a bigger data set, then your notebook should download the folder automatically. And then the next thing you should do, like to submit the notebook, you want to do a, open it in Collaboratory. So let's see. Well, okay, so let's say I wanted to go back to this. Let's say this was your analysis. Then I could save it in GitHub using the collaboratory GitHub save dialog. And then you want to select the, it's loading. So you select your fork of the thing. So it'll be your GitHub username / storytelling with data. And then let's see. And then the file path here will be, so if you clicked so you could highlight this and say, I'm going to save it to data stories / COVID-19, and then my notebook, whatever you want to call it. And then you can, create a commit message or not. So you could just keep the default one. Then you press OK. That'll add it to this folder here. And then then you should be able to view both your README file and the notebook in this folder of your fork. And then if you go back to the the starting point of your repository, the base address of your repository, so username / storytelling with data. Oops, great. Drag and drop apparently. Then you can create a pull request, which adds your assignment submission to the main class repository by going to the pull request tab and then submitting new pull request in green here. I haven't changed anything, so there's nothing for me to commit. But if you had changed something, then you would have additional options here, which allow you to commit your changes, and then you can make a commit submitting assignment 4 or something like that. And then that will open up a pull request dialog for me. And then I can merge your changes in, and that's when your assignment is officially submitted. I noticed, Nathan, you opened a pull request, but it's not quite done correctly. So you've added your file. So if we go to your repository here, you've added your files to kind of not in the right location. And it's also not a it's like a docx file instead of a markdown file. So you want to move this to the data stories COVID-19 folder. And then also put in your notebook, which I didn't see.
Okay, yeah. I was struggling a little bit, but yeah, I think after that explanation, I'll be able to figure it out.
Okay, another yeah, okay.
I have a question about the README. I just wrote it in text editor on my computer, so then it saved as a .txt instead of .md. Do you know how I can change that, or should I just upload it as is?
Do you have a Mac or?
Yeah.
So if you click on the file and then press with the file name and then press enter, you can just change the extension to .md, and then it'll pop up a little warning that says like, are you sure you want to change it from txt to md?
Yeah, when I do that, it just saves it as readme.md.txt for some reason. And so I thought that would work too. And then I was like, okay.
Okay, there's another way to, let me pull up terminal here. Let's see. Okay, let's see if I can.
Oh, you should just Slack me that she got it to save as a .md.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. There's another, so I can show you like another. So if you're on your computer, okay. So you can just like, let's say you want to go into your data stories COVID-19 folder. Then let's say your story was like, or your README file was like README file.txt. You can rename it using the move command. So mv and then space the file name and then README file.md. And if you run that, then it'll change the extension for you.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, so I think if Isha's able to get it, then I think she's trying to do the pull request, but that's good to know for next time. Thank you.
Cool, sure. And then if you do it from terminal like this, then to add the file, you can do git add and then your file name. And then I'm not gonna run it because I don't actually have this file. And then git commit -a-m, and then like added my assignment for README file or something like that. And then git push will push your changes to your local fork. And then you can go back to the web page and do a pull request into the main class repository.
Wait, can we do that all through GitHub, or do we also have to do it through the command prompt?
You can do it only on the GitHub website if you want. It depends where you're. So the other way to do it, here, let me go to my fork. So if you go to like the COVID-19 folder under data stories, then you can create a new file totally from, my assignment for readme.md, and then edit your file. And then if you just press commit, it'll add that file to your fork. So you don't have to do anything with the terminal.
Okay, cool.
And then you can submit your assignment through the collaboratory GitHub dialog, just like you've done with the other assignments or assignment 3. But this time you're changing your fork of the class repository. So it'll, instead of being under context lab / storytelling with data, or context lab / and then the assignment name, it's your username / storytelling with data. And then you want to, the other trick is you want to specify this file path with data stories and then / the name of the data story, which is all caps COVID-19, and then / and then your notebook name. And then you can change the commit message or not, it doesn't matter. Oh, sorry, I'm not actually sharing. Huh. Well, it was very clear on my computer. Let me do that so that you can actually see it. Okay. Yeah, so it'll be, it's like your username / storytelling with data is the repository. And then the file path is data stories / COVID-19, which is the assignment name / and then the name of your notebook. And then you can make the commit message whatever you want, like submitting assignment for notebook or something like that. And then, once you press OK, then that file will get added to your repository. Nathan, yeah. Or sorry.
Or yeah, Isha.
No, that's okay. You can go.
I was just like wondering when you're like after you make the fork and you say like new file, create new file. For me, like at the top now it just says like storytelling with data / name your file. And shouldn't it say storytelling with data / data stories / COVID-19?
So you want to do that from within. So you have to click into data stories and then COVID-19 and then add file, create new file. So it should have this whole path there.
Okay, that's what I did, but for me it's not.
If you want, like, you can make new folders using slashes. So you could say like, like sub folder, / and it'll make a folder for you.
Okay, cool. So I can just manually do it.
Yeah. And then the backspace gets rid of the folder names.
And you would like us to submit like the video and the markdown?
Nope, the notebook and the markdown. So the markdown file should contain a link to the YouTube, like a YouTube link to your video, because the video file is going to be too big for GitHub, probably. So the way I'm recommending doing it is if you have a link to your video in, let's see, yeah, so like here's a project from last year. So like, they put the video link in their README file, and then, so you don't have to store a video file on GitHub, which would be kind of cumbersome. And then, yeah, so you can take a look at some of the previous year's projects to get a sense of the format, but
okay, thank you.
Sure. And then I guess if you worked with, oh, great. Yeah, so they put like the contributor names in their project information. You just want to make sure that somewhere in the README file, you say who actually worked on the project, because it, just so that everyone gets credit for their projects.
Okay, thanks.
I guess that's like, I'll know for assignment 4 who did what, but as we move to part 2 of the class, it'll become more confusing and I won't necessarily know what everyone's working on, for every project.
I think I just did the whole thing. Would you mind like checking to make sure?
Yeah, let's see. Okay, so so I'm gonna cancel this pull request, Nathan, because you have to move your story here, and then oh, okay. You are. This is your binary converters. Okay. So I'm not going to merge this one in, Amelia, because that, yeah.
Yeah, I was
But
just
you-
trying
but-
to test it. The
Okay.
different versions.
All right. And then, okay. And then here's Isha's, let's see. Perfect. Yeah, so you've got it in the right folder, the group members. Awesome. And then, do you have a link to the video somewhere on here?
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the project information thing. It's at the top, but like.
Oh,
underneath
perfect,
there.
perfect.
Yeah.
Under video link, perfect. Okay, great. And then you have your notebook. Great. Yeah, so this is, yeah, so this one is correct. So I'll show you how I can merge that one in. Yeah, so great. Okay, so now that I merged it in, now the class, so now if we go to the class repository, this file is, like these two files are now part of the course that like the public can access. So, you know, so if we click on the file, like, you know, this will be your code, and then, you know, here's your README file. And then, but now because this is now changing the class repository, now all of your individual repositories are out of date. So now you want to, you can do fetch, you can go to your like personal fork of the class repository and then say fetch upstream, and then fetch and merge. And that will grab the latest changes to the class repository and put it on your fork so that, you know, everything's in sync. The order that you, so, you know, if you submit a pull request without having updated your copy of the repository, it will usually work. But if you try to change the same file that someone else changed and you're like changing an out of date copy, then you'll get something called a merge conflict, which then has to be fixed because GitHub doesn't know how to handle that automatically. So as long as you're working with different files, the like fetch upstream piece, you know, isn't 100% critical. But if there's like especially if you're doing like a group project and you're trying to keep each other's repositories in sync, then you know, you want to make sure to do this fetch operation before changing your files.
Did mine happen to work? I'm not exactly sure.
Let's see. Okay. All right. Okay, so there are two issues here. Let's see. So for this one, so I'm just gonna change the file name. So you want it to be a markdown file. Okay, so now I think that'll be correct. Okay, and then let's see, and then we can view the file in a new tab. Okay, and then this docx file, I don't know what that contains, but you should, like this isn't compatible with, like doc files aren't compatible with GitHub. If you want to, so what I would recommend is like cutting and pasting the like contents of this file into the markdown file, and then we're getting rid of this file.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think like everything is just in the markdown, and like the doc like is just there, I think, from last time. Maybe I didn't
Okay.
delete.
Got it. I see. So in that case, yeah, so we could delete the doc file from your repository. Is that this? So this is the one that's like in the, do you have like a copy of it or something in case
Yeah,
you wanted it?
that's not it's literally it's just like a Word doc with the link of the video, but the link of the video is in the markdown. So I think it's
Okay, so I'm gonna delete that file.
Mhm.
And then let's see, we can refresh this. Okay, great. So the only thing, yeah, so this now is the correct way to upload your markdown file, so your documentation for your video. But now you want to also add the notebook. So I can merge this in, or I can wait until you upload the notebook, or it could be multiple notebooks too.
Sorry, I guess I'm just a little confused what the notebook is. Is the notebook
Like how you did your analyses, so like any code that went with the project.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I had the link to the notebook, but you want like the whole, is there something else?
Yeah, so let's see. Oh, I see. Yeah, so what you want to do is do save a copy in GitHub. Can you see these pop-up windows okay.
Mhm.
And then you'll go to your GitHub username. I don't think I have access to your, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely try.
Yeah, I don't think I see it. Yeah. But for when you open Collaboratory, you'll so it'd be your username instead of my username, and then under storytelling with data, and then you just want to put like let's see, what is it? Data - stories, and then COVID-19/this. And then if you press OK, it'll add it to your fork, and then you want to do, and then that should just update the pull request, so you don't have to do anything else actually. So if a pull request is open, then any changes you make until it's merged will like automatically propagate forward. It's kind of just like a pipe that goes from your repository to the class repository.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, so do you want to do that while we're still, you want to, I don't know, we could debug it now, or you can take some time with it, whatever you would like.
Yeah, I think I can do it in like 2 seconds. But
Okay. Should we just try it so that we know it works, and then
yeah, that'd
we
be
can
awesome.
close off this assignment, and then let's see.
So it's data dash stories and then COVID.
-19. Yep.
Okay, 19. Okay, I think it's loading right now.
Okay.
Oh, something went wrong.
Oh, something happened. Let's see. Ooh, nice. Okay. So, perfect. Oh, close. Yeah, so that should be a
Oh,
folder there. That's fine.
I was wondering about that.
Okay. Oh, let's see. That looks right. All right, so we can merge that, and I'll do that right now. Okay. Cool. Okay, and so now all of your repositories are out of date again. So then you can do the like fetch. So then we can do fetch upstream, and we'll be updated. And then to, you can see that it's submitted because now it's in the COVID-19 folder. So this new story, Amelia, Hannah, Nathan, and then, oh, and then here's the README file. So now both of these are there. All right.
Yeah, thanks for helping.
Cool. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so, I think as you, practice, I think doing it once is like, the first time's always tricky. Now that you know how to do it, hopefully the next time will be smoother, but always happy to help debug GitHub stuff. Usually it's pretty straightforward, and then every so often it can get like pretty tricky. So anyways, okay, great. So that getting your assignment 4s submitted was my top priority today. So we can check that off for today. So we've done something. That always feels good. And then what I want to spend the rest of today on is starting to brainstorm your next data stories. So moving on in the class, I mentioned this, I think on Monday. What we're doing from here on in the course is like kind of, just in successive cycles, pick a data set either individually or as a group. You can pitch it to the class. You can just start working on something. And then, we'll leave time every class to do some debugging if you want. And then we'll, when you submit data stories, we'll talk, we'll give each other feedback. And so you can just use the Your Stories channel on Slack to tell the class when your stories are submitted. So we'll kind of be compressing the process for assignment 4 into every class from here on. We won't use every part of every class. We won't necessarily go through all 3 stages, but there'll be like pitch and brainstorm time, debugging time, and then like story feedback time. And then, we'll kind of, go through each of those in sequence, and then eventually we'll run out of time each class, and then we'll kind of pick up there the next class. So I thought maybe it would be helpful if I like talk a little bit about how to come up with story ideas, because like the space of things you can talk about is nearly unlimited. So in part 1 of this course, you've now like had the chance to tell a few different stories, and then you've also gotten to see some stories from your classmates. And so what I'm hoping is that maybe you're developing a sense of like which sorts of strategies and ideas have tended to work well, and then like which stories or ideas or approaches tend to resonate with your classmates and like get people excited and interested. And so you want to take those intuitions forward, you know, as you're telling more stories. You know, and then another kind of key principle that I think came up in assignment 4, and I expect will continue to crop up, is like, you know, sometimes the questions you want to ask don't always have a perfect data set to accompany them. So like, you know, if you were running a lab or a research group, then you could take the time to collect a nice data set and like answer exactly the question you set out to answer, or, you know, find the perfect data set because you designed it yourself. But that's not the case for this class, where you're kind of relying primarily on, or possibly exclusively on, existing data sets. And so sometimes, and you know, perhaps for every story, there's going to be some degree of mismatch between the story you want to tell and then the data set you have to support it. And so that's like part of the challenge of telling effective stories. And like that in practice can lead to stories that don't necessarily have like satisfying endings or clear take-home messages. And then like the other piece to it is, even if you could do a deep dive into a data set, and like if given like a year to do some extensive research project, you could maybe, you know, discover something amazing. But like, you know, these stories are going to be turned around much, much quicker than that. And so you may just not have time to do all the digging that you might want to if you had unlimited time. And so, you know, I think it's good to kind of embrace those imperfections up front, and, you know, just let the stories take them where they need to take you. And like, you know, some of your stories could flop and some will be great, and that's totally okay. And like, that's the idea, is just to like practice and try things out. There are a few strategies that like I tend to use when coming up with my story ideas, and possibly they will be helpful to you. Maybe you have others that you want to share with the class. They're kind of different ways of framing the approach of like finding your data set. So one approach is to start with an interesting question, and then use that to search for an appropriate data set. So that's kind of a question-centered approach. Obviously, depending on the question, you know, the scope of your data search will vary. A second approach is to find a data set you're interested in or excited about, and then formulate some questions about it. So that would be like a data-centered approach. And then, you know, as you dig into the data set, your questions might change even, and that's totally fine. And then kind of the third general strategy that I've, you know, had some success with is like, if you find a figure or visualization that you're like wanting to produce, like, I'm excited about learning about this type of plot, or like I have this image of what I want to show, but you don't necessarily have a question or a data set. You can start with your image of like your mental image of what you want to get to, like the thing you want to show people. And then from there, you can take like a figure or an analysis centered approach and come up with like a data set that will allow you to make that sort of visualization, and then kind of piece in retroactively a question that, you know, can help make the whole thing sound interesting. So all of these are kind of equally valid approaches. There's no like one is better than the other rule, but those are kind of the categories of approaches that I find useful to kind of frame my searches. And then yeah, I don't know if yeah, I don't know. Does anyone have any like other strategies you've used to like, that maybe you found effective so far in finding, like narrowing down questions or data sets, or like how have you come up with your story ideas so far?
This is kind of similar to like the first approach that you mentioned, but like if there's like a specific topic or like area that I'm interested in, like consumer behavior or something like that, I'll just like start looking for stuff that match that and see like what I can find there. It's similar to like what you said first, but it's like a broader, I think broader.
Yeah, so you start with like a field almost, and then, okay, I want to study something about consumer behavior, and then you like, find consumer behavior data sets maybe. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, Nathan.
I'd kind of like a specific question. I'm like really interested in the whole like word cloud idea uh and like seeing like what common words are like used in different places. Like I was thinking like maybe it'd be cool to like take like a bunch of like Instagram like posts or like Twitter posts or something like that and see like if there are like common words being used and like say like hashtags or something and like so like are we allowed to like still like look for our own data and stuff like that?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, data is pretty broadly defined in this course. It's like anything that can be turned into like a file that you can read in with, I guess, Python. But yeah, you could do web scraping of various social media sources. That counts as data. That's data you're collecting. You could scrape websites. You could download existing kind of scraped or collected data sets. Yeah, any of that is totally fine. And word cloud visualizations are great. I actually saw a neat tweet this morning about word cloud visualizations that I can post it in Slack. It just looks super cool. Let's see if I can dig it up.
And there's like a way to use Python to like scrape that information from like Instagram or stuff. Okay.
Yeah, totally. I'll just put it right in the main channel. Okay. Yeah, so it kind of looks, if you zoom in on those figures, you can see like the words there, but the transparencies are set up so that that like conveys information, and the sizes of the words convey information. And then also the positions of the words convey information. It's kind of like a really neat way to convey like lots of different aspects of your data in one single figure that I think just looks super cool.
That's pretty cool. It kind of looks like countries, but those aren't like country shapes, right?
Yeah, they're not country shapes. That is a visualization of different news groups in some web forum. And then so you get like a word cloud for each news group, and then the themes that are present in there's like a language model that's being applied to the words in, that were scraped, that determines the positions of the words. And then there's some sort of clustering process that's going on to group the like clusters of documents together within themes. And then that's determining the coloring. Yeah, so there's like a lot of stuff going on there.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, but we can, if you want to play around with those sorts of ideas, we can, I'm happy to put together, like if you're like, I want to know how to make this type of visualization, then we can dig into that as a class and like, dig into some tools and libraries, like how do you turn text into these coordinates on the screen, or how do you make transparent word clouds, things like that. And we can dig into that.
Yeah, that would be sick. I mean, I would definitely be interested in that, but not sure what other people.
Yeah, so that would be like a visualization centered approach. Yeah, so that could be neat. So yeah, so you can imagine like doing that for like Instagram or Twitter, or like any social media thing that you can scrape. And then you want to turn that into a question like, how are you, so like what are you imagining the visualization will show, or like is it going to be the different things that people are talking about, or like how the conversations like over like across the world change over time, or what's trending, so are you going to follow some key event, like when this happened, what did people talk about like before and leading up to it, and after or during, etc.
Yeah, I know too, like how like a lot of the social media platforms like take like your information you put in and then like feed you back like ads or whatever, like posts that like kind of like depending on like your interests and stuff and like what you've liked or typed in before. But that's already kind of known, so I guess like that wouldn't be like making a discovery there.
Like what's known would be how things are customized to you.
Yeah.
That could be neat. Are you familiar with the app Signal? It's like a secure texting app. Well, okay. Well, is texting still a thing? I text.
Yeah.
Okay. Text messaging is a thing. So text messages in their kind of default form on your phone are they're often sent as plain characters. So like there's actually like a little buffer in your, that like when your phone connects to like a cell tower, there's like a kind of line of communication that's opened up between the cell tower and your phone. And there's a little buffer that's attached to that is kind of used to send like debugging messages and that sort of thing. And that's being hijacked when you send a text message. So it's like the information is kind of being sent anyway. And, you can add text to there and, communicate in that way instead of just by voice. And then you can also send data and all kinds of exciting things. So that's how we send images to each other too. But the kind of, you can imagine like, when you like have your cell phone out in the world, it's just like, it's like a radio station that's broadcasting your information everywhere. And so if I was like evil and wanted to read your text messages, then, I could like stick an antenna out into the world and just capture all the information that everyone is constantly sending all the time. And if you're just sending like plain text out into the world, then anyone who does this could read any text message. So that might be disturbing to you. And so if you don't want that to happen, you can encrypt your messages, and that makes it so that even if someone were to read the data of like, the contents of this buffer, they wouldn't necessarily be able to get at your message. And so apps like Signal encrypt your message on your phone, then send it out to the world, then decrypt it on your receiver's phone, and then they can read it. But anyone in between won't be able to read your message. Anyways, you have like privacy advocates like Signal, which is like a company that, they built this secure text messaging platform. So their whole business model is about keeping your information private and secure. They recently ran an ad campaign, or kind of like a publicity stunt against Facebook who's kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum, where, Facebook, like for many social media companies, you get to use it for free because you are the product, like you're what's being sold. So your information, as you interact with these platforms, is being sold to like advertising companies, et cetera. And because of various privacy acts and like consumer advocacy acts, you have access to your information that companies are collecting about you. And so Signal had this ad campaign where they said, like, the reason you're receiving this message, and then they print out like a super targeted snip excerpt from your like personalized ad profile on Facebook. And it's because like you are, a lot of them are, it's like you just got home from yoga, it was a great workout, you recently had a baby who's 2 years old now, you like hiking in the mountains, you live in the like Northeast United States. So like, you have very specific targeted information that these companies are collecting, and like Signal did an ad campaign based on that to like kind of get people thinking about privacy, presumably. But yeah, you can scrape this stuff, and it could be interesting.
Was it, so it was like to like make everyone aware? It was like, it was, is that?
Yeah, it was like, to raise awareness of like, okay, what information are you actually sharing online and with the world that like anyone can read? And I think the point was like, first of all, it's kind of scarily detailed, and second of all, they were trying to drive, I think they were trying to drive awareness about like why people might want to be more security conscious, as a security product. They were, that's kind of their thing. So they're trying to sell their own product. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, we can look at visualizations or whatever seems interesting to you all. After you kind of think of your story idea, the next step of the process is going to be like pitching it to your classmates. So if you want to work in a group, how do you get other people interested? So like, maybe you want to convey like why you're interested, get people excited, give a sense of where you see the story going, or like how that's going to be interesting or exciting. Conveying that your story is viable, like it's not just like a kind of rabbit hole that you'll be kind of spinning wheels for a long time, but maybe you have like a plan and you think that plan might be successful, and you could convey that. All these things will help get people on board with your idea and increase interest and possibly the size of your group, if that is of interest. And then another kind of useful strategy is to like, take a look at big repositories of data sets. So some of my favorites are, I think I linked to them on the course GitHub page, but Kaggle is like a machine learning blog that's owned by Google, or I guess Alphabet, that they have like these kind of data science competitions, but as part of that, they have a ton of really interesting data sets. Yeah.
That's crazy. I literally just looked up like data sets or something like that, and the Kaggle came up, and I'm looking at like this one about like Legos right now. It's like all all of like the different like pieces and like colors of the pieces and in like all the Lego sets.
Yeah, so you could like, yeah, that could be a neat thing to visualize. Like you can imagine like visualizing Lego pieces in as like rectangles of different colors. That could get some neat plots there. Yeah, there's like data sets on pretty much every imaginable thing on Kaggle. And then another place that I like to look, we checked this out briefly a few weeks ago, but it's called Awesome Public Datasets. And it's this curated list of like data sets from a ton of different categories. And then, you can click on a link and drill down a few levels and then, eventually get to the real data. It's relatively uncurated. So there's like, anyone can add anything to that list. And so sometimes you look and like the data set's kind of a dud, like it doesn't actually contain easy to download information, or it's like strangely formatted, but often there's good stuff there. And there's thousands of data sets there, so it's a good source. And then another source that I really like is there are some like data science blogs that often share their data. So 538 is one data science blog or site, and then the New York Times and Wall Street Journal and Washington Post all have like, and probably other major newspapers too, have like data science teams, and they're starting to share their data publicly. And so those are often interesting sources. So you'll see like a article, I don't know if you've seen these, but like interactive visualizations on like, if you read the news these days. I don't know if the kids these days are doing that, but anyways, there are, you might see visualizations of like, okay, here's what's going on with the pandemic. And then there's some clickable plot that you can like zoom in on, or like a plot of the world, how people vote, or what issues people care about, or like income distributions or resource distributions, global warming. Yeah, like pretty much any topic you can think of. Some of the most interesting newspaper articles or news articles are like these interactive data visualizations, and they come from data science teams at these news organizations, like analyzing often publicly available data and then like curating it and turning it into visualizations. And when they share their data, which is they get a benefit of like increased credibility, and then we get a benefit in classes like this. We get to look at their data sets, and they're often interesting. So those are places to, if you want to take a data-centered route and see what inspires you, looking through kind of repositories of data sets can be interesting too. Okay. Any other thoughts or comments before we wrap up for today? Okay, so we didn't get to a pitch session today, but I guess maybe keep thinking, maybe you could incorporate some of the things we talked about today. Let's do a kind of brainstorming pitch session on Friday. And, if you think of an idea or a visualization or a question or data set, whatever form your idea is in, then, you'll have a chance to share it with the class, and then we can kind of dig into it and refine and see, who else is interested in working on it, and, try to get it into a story. And then I think I mentioned this on Monday, but your goal for part 2 of the class is going to be to put together 3 stories. And then they're going to be, you can work on them individually or in groups. And then the way that they're graded is the story that you do on the best on counts the most. The story you do the second best on counts the second most, and then the story, you do the third best on, count the third most. And then if you do more than 3 stories, it kind of replace, only your top 3 are graded. So if you want to like spend an hour doing some visualization and turn it into a very quick story, you could do that. And then you might not do well on it, but that's fine. And then, it's not going to tank your grade to like share something with the class. So, cool. Okay. That's all I've got today. So let's close up, and I'll see you all on Friday. Have a nice day, everyone. Take